It's Wednesday here on the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. You know what that means. You guys get to take over the show. Social media maneuvers a little bit later on. A lot of different things going on for the slow time of the year. More offensive line moves. And it seems like the offensive line has dominated the topic of conversation in the NFL the last week or so. So we're going to jump into a little bit of that today, among other topics. Devontae Adams said something that's pretty spicy. We're going to get into that as well, and a bevy of other topics. So without any further ado, you know what it is. Let's get to the proceedings this evening. LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. Who else could it be? Me, your Louie T. Welcome to the 176th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. A lot of topics to get to today. You know, I saw something pretty interesting. The NFL, for the second consecutive year, decided to do away with the supplemental draft. And normally we would get it, you know, right around now. I think that's why they had to put out the memo that they're not doing it again for the second year in a row. And honestly, does anybody care about the supplemental draft? Like, did you even realize that they didn't have one last year? Because I sure didn't. I forgot all about it. When's the last time? And this is a great question. I wanted to look this up. I didn't get my crack staff on it before the show started, but I was wondering. I asked myself, when's the last time one of these supplemental draft players actually panned out? You know, Giants fans, and I said maybe they got something here with the Beal kid from Western Michigan a couple of years ago in the supplemental draft. I remember Washington getting the Virginia Tech cornerback. Can't remember his damn name. He was tall as shit, but he turned out to be ass in the league. Has any team in the last 7 years actually gotten a supplemental draft pick of note? Anybody that's been noteworthy that actually got a second contract in the NFL from the supplemental draft? I would love to know if anybody is out there and there's a guy 6 years ago that is still in the league playing ball that was drafted in the supplemental draft. I'd love to know, because I remember Washington doing it twice in the last 8 years. Jeremy Jarman out of, I want to say he went to Kentucky. We spent a supplemental draft pick on him. And then I can't remember. It's funny because the last two guys we did it with both had the same first. The letter that their first name started with was the letter that their last name started with. I just can't think of the guy from Virginia Tech, the big tall corner. But Jeremy Jarman back in like 2013 or something like that. So both of those guys stunk. All right, neither one of those guys. I don't think they made it in the league 2 or 3 years. So I don't think that Adonis Alexander. Thank you, Rich. Really do appreciate you for that one. Adonis Alexander out of Virginia Tech. When's the last time one of these guys actually made hay in the league? I can't tell you. I don't know. But the NFL made note that, hey, yeah, we're not going to have the supplemental draft again this year. Oh, okay, cool. Nobody gives a shit. Okay. Those guys never pan out. Teams rarely spend a draft pick on a supplemental draft choice anyway. And so, we'll see what happens if they even decide to bring it back. I reckon they do. I guess when things clear up next year, I think things will be closer to normal next season. I don't see why this year was a big deal and why they couldn't do it this year. But I guess because of all the turmoil in college with all these guys having the opportunity to go back and so many guys opting out and things of that nature, they decided, hey, no reason to do it this year. Maybe they'll do it next year. We'll see. Honestly, nobody cares. I told you I was going to tell you guys a story. So I won't take up too much time with this one, but the reason that I am not doing a podcast on Friday is because I'm taking the day off. And if you live in this area, if you've been a resident of the DMV, then this is not news to you. But remember, I am a transplant. This is my first year here, so I'm not accustomed to this. And really the first 4 or 5 months here have been very peachy to me. I haven't had any issues here necessarily with traffic. There's been a couple of instances where a 10-minute drive turned into a 25-minute drive. Shit happens. Even where I was in the 7 cities, that could happen very easily. All it takes is a little bit of rain and one accident. Next thing you know, 4 lanes turn into 2 lanes and everybody's merging. And next thing you know, a 10-minute drive turns into a 35-minute drive. It happens. And I used to have to deal with tunnel traffic, the HRBT, things of that nature. But there is no traffic, or there is no tunnel around here. There's really no need for traffic around here except for all the damn construction. But long story short, I was heading back home to the 7 cities for Father's Day. And we were going to leave at like 10 in the morning. We ended up not leaving until noon. Part of it is my fault. I did the stupidest thing. Check this out. And some of you may be able to relate to this. Maybe not. Depending on what year your car is. So I'm new to the keyless start car game. Okay. I'm of the old school. You have a key, you stick it in the ignition, you turn the key, and you turn the car on. And you can't turn the car on without the key. Well, these new goddamn cars, all you got to do is have the key inside the car. When you turn it on, you press the ignition switch, you step on the brakes, voila, the car turns on. You don't need the key after that, really. So, I'm a genius. We have 2 cars that are like that, okay? So, I go back in the house. I had to get something out of my car. We were driving in my fiance's car. And so, I went and got my key to my car to get something out of the trunk, to take it out of my trunk, put it in her trunk. When I go back in the house, I put the wrong key back on the key ring. All right. So I get back in the car's already on. And luckily enough for us, we needed gas. So we stop for gas. I fill it up. I get in the car and I go to turn it on and the car won't start. And I'm like, what is it talking about? The key is right here in my pocket. I pull the key out and it's my damn key, not the key for the car that we're in. So I had to run all the way back home, which was a 10-minute walk/run. That's another story for another day. To get the key that we needed to start the car. Needless to say, what should have been a 10 o'clock departure turned into a 12 o'clock departure. And then what should have been, I had a haircut appointment at 2. We were supposed to get, to Norfolk at 2. Well, we didn't get to Norfolk until 6. That's right. What is an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hour max drive turned into a 6-hour drive. It was a marathon. And I said, never again. That shit will not happen again. We got caught up. And, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. It's a Friday. Yeah, it's Father's Day weekend, but it's Father's Day weekend. It shouldn't be that bad. It's Friday. We left early enough, or so I thought. It was a nightmare. And for those of you that live in this area, it could get pretty ugly on a Friday afternoon. We took an L. Every different city we went to on the way home, there was traffic. So, anyway, I digress. It's just not happening to me this Friday. I'm going to make sure we leave early, bright and early. So, I'm going to try this haircut thing again. It's a 2 o'clock appointment. I should be there on time this time. At least that's what I think. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the proceedings this evening. I've talked your head off long enough. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, LouieTeeNetwork. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, I want to do the offensive line shuffle. Do the shuffle. Not the hustle. The offensive line shuffle. A lot of offensive lineman news over the last week or so. If we go all the way back, remember Morgan Moses was released by Washington. That was a surprise move. Nobody saw that coming. Took him a while to find a new home, unlike Charles Leno Jr., who was a surprise cut by the Chicago Bears that found a home with Washington maybe like a week and a half later after he was cut. Morgan Moses took his time and landed with the Jets on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. With incentives, that deal can get up to $5.3 million. The thought process behind the move is he's going to replace George Fant, who was the starting right tackle for the Jets last year, give them a little bit of a veteran presence on that offensive line that is relatively young, including Mekhi Becton, who looks like he's going to be a force of nature at the left tackle position for many years to come. And so we'll see how that works out for the Jets. Morgan Moses, a really solid right tackle in this league, and I think he will help upgrade that Jets offensive line. The Steelers released All-Pro guard Dave DeCastro. Now, he wasn't an All-Pro last year, didn't have one of his better seasons, and he's coming off of ankle surgery, his third ankle surgery of his career. And at this point, the Steelers are looking at him at 31 years old saying, we're paying him a lot of money. We could use the cap space. Trey Turner is going to be a lot cheaper, which he ultimately was. We'll talk about that in a second. DeCastro may be on the decline and on the downside of his career. We don't know what he's going to look like after this ankle injury, and he wasn't that great in 2020. All of those things factored into him getting released. However, DeCastro's like, yo, if this ankle doesn't heal properly after the surgery, my third ankle surgery, I'm cool with just hanging it up and going on with my life. Like, I don't have to play football anymore. Made some good money. I had some fun, made some great friends, met a lot of great people. I can get on with my life and go to the next chapter if my ankle doesn't heal up the way that I want it to. So he's kind of in limbo. If he comes back, if he's healthy, he could help somebody. And I don't know if his career is over or not, but that was a surprise cut, a surprise release. We talk about these post-June 1 cuts, and they've been happening, over time. It felt like, okay, June 1, we should get 16 different moves made by different organizations around the league. Nah, they're happening slowly. And this was another one of those moves. The Steelers were probably pondering over this for a while. It probably made more sense post-June 1. They make the move because I don't think, and I tell the young youth of America this all the time, don't quit your job until you have another one already, okay? Don't quit your job until you've already got another one teed up. I don't think the Steelers were getting rid of David DeCastro until they had Trey Turner in the bank. That deal had to be done. The ink had to dry on the paper before they were going to move on Dave DeCastro. The minute they got Trey Turner to agree to that 1 year, $3 million deal that he ultimately signed with the Steelers, then they said, okay, Dave, we love what you've done for us. Really appreciate you, but we got to move on in a different direction. So Steelers move on from Dave DeCastro. He's no longer with the Steelers. Trey Turner, a guy that, and I talked about this when, Washington fans, we've been having a conversation about Brandon Sheriff. Should they pay him? Shouldn't they pay him? I said they shouldn't have franchise tagged him for a second consecutive time. He's going to make a ton of money this year, like $18 million this season. He made 15 last year. And then he's probably going to really hit it big in free agency next year when he becomes a free agent if he's able to stay healthy this year. I don't think Washington should be the team to pay him. I've talked about guards, and we had this conversation on this very podcast some month or so ago when we saw all these guards. Essentially, they were the position that teams around the league decided, if we're going to have to cut, a little bit of cap space, and if we're going to have to trim off a little bit of fat on the roster, we're going to go straight to the guard position. And there were a bunch of overpriced guards that ended up either being cut or being asked to take a pay cut or a restructure, and some guys elected to do so, like the guard in Jacksonville that they got from Carolina, and then other guys just flat out got cut, like the guard in New York for the Giants. The guard Trey Turner got cut with the Chargers. And so that's a position where you don't have to overspend. And you're seeing that a little bit now. Trey Turner comes in 1 year, $3 million to replace Dave DeCastro. We'll see how it goes for the Steelers and if he can get back, because he had an injury-riddled season in 2020, which is why the Chargers decided to part ways with him. We'll see if he can get back to his all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber ways in 2021. But The big news of the day, as we continue with the theme of the offensive line, Ryan Ramczyk, Saints, former first-round pick of that famed 2017 draft that we continue to talk about. Marshawn Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk were both first-rounders in that year's draft. They had, I think, Williams, the safety, Marcus Williams was in the second round, if I'm not mistaken. Alvin Kamara's in that draft, I believe, as well as a third-round pick, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had about 2 or 3 more guys, Alex Anzalone, and maybe 1 or 2 more guys that panned out and turned out to be really good players for them out of that year's draft. It was a fantastic haul for Mickey Loomis and company. But now Ramczyk is up for that, just like they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do at the cornerback position. They're going to have to pay these guys, and Ramczyk got his bread today, 5 years, $96 million extension from the New Orleans Saints, $19.2 million per year on average for Ramczyk, highest paid right tackle in NFL history. And here's the kicker about this. This isn't just your standard next guy up gets paid the most money at a respective position in the league. We see it all the time. That's the new trend now. If you're next up, you're the highest paid at that position. This is a needle-moving contract, okay? This isn't your standard run-of-the-mill, all right, next guy up, he's going to beat the last guy in line by $2 million to up the total of the next contract that gets signed. No, this is a knock the ball out of the park, blow the last high deal watermark contract out of the water type of deal. His 5-year, $96 million extension, Ryan Ramczyk's, in New Orleans, is $24 million, $24 milli higher than the next highest right tackle contract in the league, that of Lane Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles, which is $74 million in aggregate. So this is a needle-moving deal, okay? You go from $72 million being the highest paid right tackle to $96. It's a big time move. That's a big jump. For all tackles around the league, you should be rejoicing and high-fiving Ryan Ramczyk, especially if you play the right tackle position, because he just made you money today with the deal that he just signed. He's an outstanding football player, and now he's being compensated as such. They still got to sign Marshawn Lattimore. We'll see what they did. They already re-upped a lot of those guys from that draft. I think they slapped the franchise tag on Marcus Williams. They didn't want to lose him. They already re-upped with Alvin Kamara. And now Ramczyk gets the deal. The only guy left of that draft that is of note is Marshawn Lattimore. We'll see what the Saints decide to do with him. He may get a franchise tag next year if they cannot find a middle ground on a deal with him. But these offensive linemen, man, they're making bank, especially if you play the tackle position. These guards, I think you're going to see a decrease in these guard deals. Obviously, Quentin Nelson is going to kill it. He deserves it. But unless you're one of those types of players, I don't know if we're going to see a lot of these guards, killing it like we've seen the last couple of years, where these guards have been eating good. Obviously, the Chiefs just paid the former Patriots guard, a ton of money in free agency. After what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, you knew they were going to spend big on the offensive line, and that they did. However, and they traded for Zeus, Orlando Brown Jr. From the Ravens. So they've stockpiled that offensive line. They've reloaded up there up front. And you've got to be dominant up front as a guard if you want to get paid the big bucks. The tackle position is a little different. You can get broken off and not be elite. But Ryan Ramczyk is elite. And that's why he got paid the kind of money that he just got paid. So I can tell you this, man, the offensive line, these dudes are starting to get the respect that they deserve. For a long time, they were getting shitted on. But with Trent Williams signing that $100 million deal and David Bakhtiari getting a $100 million deal, and now Ryan Rapp, and those are left tackles now. Left tackles get it, okay? Left tackle, we talk about the chicken or the egg. You know, when we start talking about pass rushers or offensive tackle, which one comes first? It's usually left tackle. I've talked about the shift in paradigm in the way of thinking in the league where, you know, before, hey, I need the stud left tackle. Just give me a dude to get by with on the right side and we'll make that work. You can't do that anymore. Like for years, defensive coordinators, they weren't smart, okay? They take their best pass rusher and just line them up in the same spot over and over again against the other team's best pass protector at left tackle. I'm like, that's not really that smart. And it took a while. You know, LT was kind of the real first guy that moved around, that really created havoc from all over the field. But still, teams, he was an untraditional unicorn, essentially. He wasn't a guy that just lined up at one position. He was a linebacker that could rush off the edge, he could, you know, blitz, all kinds of different things. But when it came to defensive ends, we're still stuck in that way of, hey, left defensive end, right defensive end. It took a while before teams started catching on like, hey, the left tackle is pretty damn good, but the left tackle is pretty damn good, but this right tackle over here, he's a little funky. Let's take our best pass rusher and put him against that guy. Can't do that anymore. Teams have caught up to the game. They got hip to the game and they're like, okay, enough of that shit. Can't have a garbage right tackle and hide him on the right side because teams will just take their best pass rusher. They'll take Von Miller. They'll take Khalil Mack. You know, they'll take Myles Garrett and they'll just stick him on the right in front of that right tackle and abuse him. Now you got to take your tight end and move him over there. You got to take your back and you got to chip on that side and you got to double team that way. There's no need for that. Just make sure both your left and right tackle are really good. Hence, Ryan Ramczyk is being paid like a left tackle because the right tackle position is just as important now. And it didn't used to be that way, but it is now. So good for Ryan Ramczyk. And we'll see if this is the new trend in the league. If the next guy up gets a $100 million deal after Ramczyk's 5-year, $96 million extension, we'll see how it goes. But that's going to do it for the gem dropping session today. I see you guys are lining up the comments. Great job by you. It is Wednesday, social media maneuvers. If you're out there, you want your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive. We will get through as many of these comments as possible. Can't guarantee you that we will get through all of them. If you want your comment read badly enough, super chatting is the way to go. You can jump straight to the front of the line by doing that. But in any event, start lining them up. I see you guys have done that. We'll get to those comments and more on the other side of this break. You are dialed in to the 176th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I will see you on the other side after a word from one of our sponsors. I want to take the time first to thank Manscaped for sponsoring the Louie T Network podcast. Summer's coming. Are you ready to unveil your beach bod? You're in luck. Our friends over at Manscaped just launched their 4th generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Compliment your dad bod or six-pack, okay? I don't want to offend anybody out there. You're working hard, you got that six-pack. Show it off and trim with the leaders in male grooming. The sun is shining and it's calling your name, fellas. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for hot guy summer with 20% off plus free shipping by going to manscaped.com and using the promo code LouieT. Let's get to what's inside of this magnificent package. First off, the new Performance Package 4.0 includes the new Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is insane. Dare I say it's the GOAT of ball trimmers? Yeah, I just said that. Okay, their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Did I mention that this trimmer is also waterproof? In the shower or in the wild, from your chest pubes all the way down to your ball fro, The Lawnmower 4.0 is the best trimmer for you. Want to take your grooming game even further to the next level? The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and in your ear. And I can attest to this with a massive snossage. This Weed Whacker gets the job done. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary blade dual system. This nose and ear trimmer also provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Seal the deal with Manscaped's liquid formulations. Before heading outside, use the Crop Preserver ball deodorant to keep your game in the heat. Then after trimming the lawn and whacking the weeds in the heat, give your beach balls a boost by using the Crop Reviver. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag to bring your comfort and boxers to another level. Get 20% off plus free shipping by going to manscaped.com. Promo code LouieT. That's 20% off plus free shipping by going to manscaped.com using the promo code LouieT. Escape the shrubs and weeds this summer and shine with Manscaped. Trust me when I tell you this. Your balls will thank you, and tell them your man, Louie T, sent you. Welcome back to the show, 176th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Real quick, I want to take care of some housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Over 50 of you out there, only 24 likes. We can do so much better than that. So if you are out there and you haven't already done so, please hit the like button. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please rate and review this podcast. It helps it greatly. 5 stars if you're rating it, and a very positive review if at all possible. Also, if you haven't done so and you're a part of the Mob Squad, get you some merch. Pre-orders are being taken right now as we speak, limited quantity. So please, if you're a member of the Mob Squad or you want to be a member of the Mob Squad, those links are down in the description of this video. Become a member of the Mob Squad, get you some merch, and rep the Mob Squad to the fullest. Stand up. We in the building as always, okay? And lastly, social media maneuvers time, okay, guys? So get your comments ready. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read in the comment section. Make sure that if you want to jump to the front of the line, use Super Chat. Again, I cannot guarantee you that we will get to all of these comments, but I will try to get to as many of them as possible. We do have a Super Chat, so we will get to that one first. I want to thank my mods for all of your work and all of the things that you do for the Louie T Network, and I appreciate you guys continuing to urge everyone to subscribe, to like these videos, and also don't forget to subscribe to my other channel, Card Collector Series. Whether you're going to watch it or not, still would love your support in subscribing. And even if you're not going to watch, just don't turn on the notification bell and I will be out of your hair. But again, looking to get those that sub count up on that other channel. I'm going to be live tonight shooting an NBA mix and rip. So looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun live tonight on the Card Collector Series. The link for that channel down in the description. If you haven't already subbed up that channel, please do your man Louie T a huge solid and do that as well. My guy Silver Villains, Silver V, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Silver V writes, Louie T, I got 2 questions. 1, would you build a team starting with the dominant secondary like the Legion of Boom, or a dominant O-line like Dallas once had? 2, who's better, Reggie White or Aaron Donald? So let's start with your first question. If I'm starting a team, I'm going to start in the trenches. That's just my philosophy. You build a dominant D and offensive line, and then you go from there. And I think that if you can build a dominant offensive line, you can get away with less than stellar quarterback play and parts that surround that quarterback, similar to what the Titans have done, similar to what the Browns have done recently. Those are two teams. The skill positions on those teams aren't great. The quarterback position for those two teams aren't great. But you know what they have? A dominant front, which features a dominant run game. You can run the football. Look, that will never, ever die. Okay? That will be timeless. You can never fade a run game, a dominant one. We could talk about the passing games. Points come from the passing game. It's a passing league now. The NFL has enacted all of these rules to help the offense and to put up more points on the scoreboard. But if you can run the football, you're going to give yourself a chance. And a dominant offensive line gives you that chance every single week. Because even if your offense isn't good, you can shorten the game with a dominant offensive line. The same cannot be said for a dominant secondary. Now, that helps on the defensive side of the football. You can shut down receivers and blanket guys. That quarterback has nowhere to go with the football. If he's got to turn down option 1, 2, and he's got to check it down, and your guys up front can rally and tackle, you make life hell. That's what the Broncos did to the Patriots back in, I want to say, 2014, 2015, when they beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. They rushed 3. They rushed Brady with 3. They dropped 8. And they played coverage. And they had no answers. They couldn't get guys open. They couldn't separate. Brady had nowhere to go with the football. But I will take the offensive line over the dominant secondary. Give me the O-line first. As far as who was the better player, Reggie White, or who was it / is the better player, Reggie White or Aaron Donald? Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I've never seen anyone quite like Aaron Donald. Now, that's no disrespect to Reggie White, the minister of defense, because you haven't really seen anybody quite like him either. You know, how many defensive ends are plus 300 pounds, but they move like they're 250, like they're an edge rusher, but they're a big, stout, sturdy defensive end that can still get up the field and get to the quarterback. I mean, Reggie White was like a big ninja. I mean, the feet were quick, they were light, but he was a man. I mean, the hump move. I mean, how many different moves did this guy come up with that, not necessarily he came up with, he was like, what? I'm trying to think of the name of that company. I think it's BASF. We don't make the products you buy. We make a lot of the products you buy better. Like, Reggie White didn't invent the head slap, but he was good at it. Reggie White didn't invent the bull rush, but he was good at it. What Reggie White did invent, though, was the hump move. Nobody else can do that, though. You know, there aren't many guys that can take another man against his will and hip toss him, essentially. Go look at the sack against Drew Bledsoe in the Super Bowl in '96. That's the hump move. And he'd been doing it all of his career. But Aaron Donald is otherworldly. What he's done inside, I told you, Troy Aikman said this. I didn't say this. Troy Aikman said it. I've been saying this well before Troy Aikman said it. But Troy Aikman has actually played against these guys. He played against Reggie White. He played against Lawrence Taylor. Now, you know, there's a debate there. A lot of people like, look, man, Lawrence Taylor's the best in the discussion. And I'm not arguing with those people because he was a demon and he changed the game, did Lawrence Taylor, which Aaron Donald isn't changing the game, but he's different. Troy Aikman said, Aaron Donald's the most dominant defensive player I think I've ever seen. And he said, I played against Lawrence Taylor. I played against Reggie White. And I recorded it. I tweeted that out when he said it during the playoff game against the Rams, in which he the playoff game against Seattle this past year, where he single-handedly helped destroy that offense and helped the Rams win with a one-handed, four-fingered Jared Goff. It'd be Aaron Donald for me. I said all of that to say this. It'd be Aaron Donald for me. He's that good, is Aaron Donald. Thank you for the super chat, Silver V. Um, let's get to the comment section. Hey, what up, Johnny68740? Likely Phenomenon. What's good with you, man? What's going on, LP? Says hashtag the Rockstar Show. I'm assuming that's your show, so y'all check him out on his channel. JCamman99 says, what is the mascot now for the Washington football team? Is there some guy dressed in a giant W costume running around? We have no idea. Right now, we don't need a mascot. Because this isn't the permanent, at least I don't think it's the permanent name of this team moving forward. I could be wrong, and this could be the permanent name of the team moving forward. But until they announce that this is the permanent name, we don't need a mascot. This is temporary. I hope it's temporary. Rich says, if you mind me asking, what part of the DMV you live in? I live in Northeast DC. So I'm like, I live in Fredericksburg. So I heard somebody call it, Fred. They called it Dead Fred. I don't even know if this is considered the DMV. I guess it is, because it's still Northern Virginia, but it doesn't feel like the city here. Feels a little bit more rural. I'm a city guy. I grew up in the city all my life, so this is different for me. Sammer LD, my guy, says, do you think my Ravens additions of Bateman, Watkins, and Wallace, as well as Roman, putting emphasis on the passing game will finally help Lamar reach the next level? It won't hurt. It can't hurt to add more weaponry. You still got Hollywood, and you add all of those guys that you just mentioned to the mix. It's going to give him more ammunition. It's going to give him more options to get the football to, and it's going to spread the field out even more. It's been too easy for teams to defend the Ravens. They're going to have to open it up, but Bateman and Watkins and Hollywood and all the guys you mentioned and all the additions to this football team are going to open things up, not to mention you've got a really good tight end there in Mark Andrews. So I think that if they can't do it with the weapons they've added now, then they may never be able to do it. And I think Roman can do it. Greg Roman is capable of creating a passing attack with Lamar Jackson's strengths centered around his ability to run that will really hurt defenses and force them to respect his ability to use his legs. It should be able to open up, sort of like Robert Griffin III in 2012. It should open up the field for Lamar Jackson, especially with all the weapons. I think this is the year where he's got to put it together. And it's funny that I'm saying that this is a man that's already won an MVP and was outstanding back in 2019. So I do think his game can go to the next level this year. We'll see. Rich says, Jets O-line is nice, and now he says, and you know how much we love Moses. Those fans hating, we're tripping, and I will fight for Morgan. I was a big Momo fan myself. Again, was he the best guy in the league? No, but he was a lot better than most right tackles. You could do a hell of a lot worse, and the thing I loved about him was he was going to play every week. Say what you want. The best ability is availability, and Morgan Moses was available every week, and he was damn good being available. It's one thing to be available, but you stink. He was available, and he was good. So I'm right there with you. Captain Spartan says, first thing first, hope you're doing good. Likewise, he says 4th of July weekend coming up, so great weekend to relax. It will be. I could definitely use it. I've been burning both ends of the candle, but no complaints here. I'm going to be taking a lot of time off in July, as you will find out here shortly. July is my birthday month as well, so I'm going to put in the work, but, there are going to be a lot of times where your band Louie T is just not here in July. This is the last month, really. If you're going to relax and enjoy a month, this is the one to do it, because camp gets started at the end of July, and after that, we hit the ground running in August, and it's no turning back from that point forward until we get to February. So we'll see what happens. Captain also says, thoughts on Mike Soroka? I'm okay with waiting till 2023 for him. Don't rush him at all. I never expected him back this year. There were a lot of people that were very hopeful that he'd be back at some point, maybe August or something like that. I was like, anytime I hear Achilles, I get nervous. If it's not torn but there's some kind of irritation. I get nervous. So I'm not shocked when the man's simply walking to the dugout and he tears his Achilles. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not the starting pitching that's been the problem anyway. And Mike Soroka isn't a bullpen member. So we all know what the problem is. Joe Thuney, thank you, Kyle. Joe Thuney was the guard that the Chiefs signed to a massive contract this offseason from the Patriots. Captain Spartan also says, for the David DeCastro Trey Turner situation, intentionally I was frustrated. I think you meant initially you were frustrated, but I've calmed down seeing that DeCastro's ankle injury is way bigger than I thought. He's thinking retirement. He's mulling over it. He says if it doesn't heal properly, he's just going to call it quits. So we'll see what happens there. Captain Spartan says, it's sad that Ben's in his final year. He'll have a completely new O-line in front of him. Najee Harris, too. The projected O-line has a combined 24 games in Steeler uniforms. It's a young group. But that's what happens when you get to this, stage of everyone's career at the same time. DeCastro was getting up there, even though he still got some good football left at the ankle heels. But obviously you had Pouncey retire and you moved on from Villanueva. So it just all happened at once, essentially. And you still got to sign your guard or the center that you drafted. I think that'll happen here shortly now in the next couple of days, I believe. We'll see. Kevin the PRF says, I know you don't care, but what is the point of Snyder naming his wife co-CEO? I mean, spoiler alert, my wife is co-CEO. It isn't like I need to announce it for anybody to know. So I thought that it was, you're right. I don't give a shit. But somebody said it best. I think it was the attorney of the 40 women that were, or, the women that felt like they were sexually harassed at the Washington football team's workplace over the years. They said that it was essentially him, doing this as a token move to show that they're trying to diversify, which they've done a lot of diversifying with the hiring of the first black team president, Jason Wright, and they've hired, Julie Donaldson, to be the head of their communications department, and she's the first female lead play-by-play analyst, and so forth and so forth. They hired a Hispanic woman in a high-ranking position within the organization. They've done so many different things to try and, save face, and they feel like this is another move to try and save face, to try to show the initiative that they're changing when really they're not changing anything. That's how they feel. I feel the same way. Like, okay, Tanya Snyder has been pretty much running the show the last couple of years anyway, along with Dan, of course, but she's been out in the forefront of a lot of things. So I think it was just him trying to say, hey, look what we're doing. Don't look over here, look over here. Kind of a sleight of hand type of deal. Captain Spartan says, just imagine if they had a leader to follow like Creed Humphrey instead of Kendrick Green, and a guy actually future starting potential in James Hudson, not swinging Dan Moore Jr. Well, I mean, it is what it is. That's who they decided to take. So you got to make the best of that situation. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that, man. Rich says, I've been in the Mob Squad since it started, but what made you start it? Use Flick in that name, and why 2Bs? I started it because I tried to do something like that with my website. When I first started my website, I had a Washington forum. I forgot what I named it. But I had a forum that I tried to start, and I wanted it to be like this all-inclusive Washington fan hangout spot where you could come and chop it up with other fans and debate topics, and it just never took, and I probably didn't do the best job of promoting it and advertising it and getting it out there, but it died very quickly. After maybe 6 months of me trying, I just said, okay, this is going nowhere. So I thought when I had the chance to do it with Flick, when I was approached by them about, checking out their app and seeing if it was something I was interested in doing, I said, this is awesome. This is everything I wanted my, group to be, my community, my Washington community to be, except it's on an app. It's on a mobile app that's easier for, this new generation to consume. Who's going on websites anymore? And like extreme skins, like that shit's old. Nobody's doing that anymore. Apps are the way of the future. So it was just easy. And Mob Squad, I don't know what made me come up with it. Obviously, I'm a old school hip hop head. Mob Deep, MOBB. It just felt right. So there's a lot of that there as well. So Kevin the PRF says, I'm guessing 10, 20, 50 years from now, when the NFL allows throwbacks, ours will be the 2020 unis. Like, hey, Dallas, remember 2020? Yeah. That it could be a throwback. Hell, I mean, if they come up with a new name within the next 2 years, 10 years from then, this, Washington football team, little brief, 3-4 year era will be a throwback, situation. And we'll be looking at the old logo and the old hats and, jerseys and things of that nature. I'm pretty sure you're right. Absolutely. Rich says, yeah, the Virginia part of the DMV is just Nova, and basically, if you can catch the metro, yeah, I feel like we're a little too far away, but I mean, obviously, it's still part of the DMV, but I just feel like we're a little bit too far away from the action. I can't wait till everything really opens up post-COVID, so I can get in the city a little bit and really experience. I've only really experienced DC maybe a handful of times. I want to really kind of get acclimated to DC and all that it has to offer, and the DMV area, the true DMV area, get downtown, I get to the casino, to the MGM, and, all of that stuff. Get to the harbor. I haven't done any of those things yet. And I planned on doing that when we moved up here, and obviously COVID had other plans, so we'll see. Kevin, the PRF, says, Donald, number 1 interior defensive lineman, number 5 best defensive all time behind Taylor, Smith, Jones, and Lewis. All right, so let's see if I can figure out who these players that you're talking about are. Lawrence Taylor, Smith, Bruce Smith, I'm assuming. Deacon Jones, I'm guessing is the Jones, and Lewis. You got me on the Lewis one. I don't know who Lewis is. I may be blanking, but I can't think of any defensive stud Lewises. Might be before my time. Anyway, all those guys are awesome. Deacon Jones was the inventor of the sack. Obviously, the term sack. Lawrence Taylor changed the game. I think he's the one guy that I look at with Donald and I say, it's 1A, 1B for me. But Aaron Donald, he's that guy for me. Rodney Ray says, it's funny how Washington, it's funny how Washington, we're excited about getting Leno and getting rid of Moses, yet not realizing over the past 2 years, Moses and Leno are the same guys, even down to the penalties. I don't know. See, this is the thing with fans a lot of times, is that they get so caught up in their own way of thinking. They get this warped sense of, this guy stinks, and then they become a part of a mob, a lynch mob. Oh, this guy sucks. He's always jumping false start. He's always holding. He's this, he's that. And they think, oh, this guy's terrible. And they think that there's something out there better. Oh, we can do better than Morgan Moses. Oh, really? Okay. We'll see about that. It's not easy to find guys in this league that are dependable and more than serviceable. Morgan Moses was both. He was dependable, and he was more than just your average right tackle. He wasn't just serviceable. He was above average. He was a good right tackle in this league. And we didn't have to worry about musical chairs at that position. Yeah, there were times where he was false start and he didn't get called for it. There were times where he did get called. There were times where he held, sure. But you could do a hell of a lot worse than Morgan Moses, which is what I would always tell people. And I'm not saying that you just settle. oh, so just because you can do a hell of a lot worse, we shouldn't look for better. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if it's not broken, let's not look to fix it, especially in the NFL where it's hard to find good quality players that you can rely on. And we had other pressing needs. It'd be one thing if you're looking and searching and probing for a team that doesn't have a bunch of glaring weaknesses. Now you're looking to upgrade positions. That's not where we were. We had a bunch of holes on the offensive line itself. We didn't need to create any other holes. And we had a defense that was bad for a long time. And we still are searching for a franchise quarterback. There are other things that were more important than replacing Morgan Moses. So, we'll see what happens. I could never understand why fans wanted to get rid of Morgan Moses so bad. I just never understood that. KP Underdog says, I'm from Richmond, VA. I spent a lot of my teenage years partying at ODU in Norfolk State. Good times, man. Good times. I can tell you that much. Good times. I spent a lot of time partying at Norfolk State. I didn't do too much partying in my years at ODU. But, man, I did some partying in my Norfolk State days. That is for sure. Got a super chat here from Abner Duran. My guy Abner. I feel like it's been a little while, Abner. Good to hear from you. My guy Abner writes, hey Lou, what's up? Maybe Momo wasn't the best, but along with Kerrigan and some others, he was consistent. Exactly. Like Kerrigan, I never advocated for us to get rid of Kerrigan now. I did advocate for us to trade him when he was coming towards the end of his Washington tenure, when I realized they're probably not going to have him back. You might as well get something for him if somebody's offering something for him. They decided not to go that route. They milked him for all he was worth. I don't have a problem with that. But, Kerrigan wasn't great, but he was dependable. He was always available. And he was a quality football player, better than average. So that's similar. And I said that about both of them when I talked about when Morgan Moses got released. I said it's similar to Ryan Kerrigan. Not great, but dependable and a guy you knew you could rely on week in and week out. So, anyway, I digress. I'm right there with you, Abner. Got another super chat. This one is from Captain Spartan 04. Says, also, by the way, finally got a real job so I can super chat. Good for you, man. Good for you, Captain Spartan. And hopefully you're going to be making some good money, man. Glad to hear that you have some work. Let's see. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our final segment of the show. Garbage time. And I'm going to start with my guy Ree's comment here. It says, the Packers are the most underachieving team in league history. 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row for a combined total of 32 seasons between them, 2 rings. You're not going to get a lot of pushback from me there. Aaron Rodgers, he's like the modern day John Elway, except it didn't take him, he did it in reverse. It didn't take him 87 trips to the Super Bowl and championship games to finally win one, but he rather won one early and then hasn't been able to get back. How many NFC championship games has Aaron Rodgers been to? Can anybody out there tell me? I don't know. I don't know the number, but I know it's a lot of them. And they, for whatever reason, whether you go to the 2014 season when they should have won and the tight end botched the onside kick against Seattle and they lose in overtime, or, I can't tell you. They lose to the Giants that one year. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback. That was Brett Favre. But I can't tell you how many Aaron Rodgers led Green Bay Packers teams made it to the NFC Championship game, but I can think of at least 4 or 5. The last 2 in particular, Tampa Bay and the 49ers. Obviously, they got blown out by the Atlanta Falcons in 2016 when the Falcons were a juggernaut, and that was all Aaron Rodgers anyway. They had no business in the NFC Championship game. Remember what he did against the Cowboys that ridiculous throw to Jared Cook on the sidelines to set up the game-winning field goal. He was a man possessed in that postseason, but he wasn't going to beat the Atlanta Falcons by himself that year. The Seahawks game I just talked about, that's 4 NFC championship games right there. You know, I could be missing 1 or 2, but he's been to 5 NFC championship games, I believe, maybe 6. Won the first one he went to, and I don't know if he's won another one. I know he hasn't, because he hasn't been to the Super Bowl but once. So it's amazing. But the only reason they were even in those games is because of Aaron Rodgers. Now, we could talk about other facets of the roster and maybe where, you know, other positions where they may have failed him. But the point of the discussion that my guy Reed brought up is that they're an underachieving team. Well, they're going to be a lot more than just underachieving here shortly if things continue in the direction that it's trending right now. My garbage time is simply a question that I'm going to ask. Are the Packers on the verge of sucking? And remember, prior to what my guy Reed just brought up of 2 back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks, the Packers stunk for a very long time. The Packers were not a good organization for much of the 80s. You know, I think maybe late 80s with the Magic Man, they might have had a year or 2 in there, but they stunk for a good stretch of football there. The Packers were awful. And they could be on the verge of going back down that path now. The wild card in all of this, obviously, is Jordan Love. If he's good, if he's Aaron Rodgers 2.0, which is why they drafted him, because they saw a lot of the traits that they saw in Aaron Rodgers when they drafted him, you know, back in 2005 coming out of Cal. If he is that guy, then maybe the drop-off isn't as precipitous and he may be able to keep them afloat and they won't stink. But if he's just average, if Jordan Love is just average, middle of the road, the Packers are on the verge of going down a slippery slope of being absolute ass-tastic here in the future. And the reason I bring this up is because of Davante Adams' quote recently that's making its rounds today, which someone asked him, and look, all he did was answer a question. He didn't bring this up on his own volition. He was asked a question about, you know, would he like to play with Derek Carr? And he said, it'd be a dream come true. Of course it would be. He's my best friend. That's my guy from college. I love Derek Carr. I'd love to play with him in the NFL. It'd be a dream come true. Yikes. Zoinks! Now, in saying that, he said, look, I'm still in Green Bay. We'll see what happens. Guys use all kinds of different tactics to get paid. And this could be a tactic being used by Davante Adams to put pressure on the Packers to go ahead and ante up and give him the biggest deal he can possibly get with this organization. That said, Davante Adams has mixed no words in saying that, hey, a lot of what I'm going to do is definitely tied into the future of the quarterback position. Now, the beauty of what happens this year potentially is if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play and he gets to see Jordan Love and he is the real deal, then that may make Davante Adams say, you know what, I might just stay here in Green Bay. And we're assuming the Vegas Raiders have cap space and the ability to go out and get Davante Adams. If I'm the Raiders, I'll make space to get Davante Adams because he's one of the best receivers in the league. And if you really want to upgrade your football team, he's a guy that can help you do that. But that said, if Rodgers plays this year and then he wants out, and we already know he wants out, and if he plays this year and then he's gone, Adams has already said, I got to kind of weigh my options because no, Aaron Rodgers isn't good for business for me. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Packers handle this situation because let me give you the last 3 times Aaron Rodgers was compromised, what this Packers team looked like. Because I don't think people really understand, you know, you got my guy Reed talking about how the Packers are one of the most underachieving teams in in the NFL history. Here's the thing you got to understand about the quarterback position. And when you have one of these guys, you got to take advantage, because these guys, they make that much of a difference. Think about what the Seattle Seahawks were before Russell Wilson. Tavares Jackson. And they did have a little stretch there with Matthew Hasselbeck. They didn't make it to a Super Bowl. They were a good team for a little stretch there, but they also were a really bad team at times. Middle of the road team. Think about them trying to brave the elements potentially with Matt Flynn. That year they signed him in free agency is the same year they drafted Russell Wilson in 2012. Imagine what they would have been had Matt Flynn had to be their quarterback and not Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has been to the postseason every year of his career except one. Do you think Seattle would have been in the playoffs 8 out of the last 9 seasons if not for Russell Wilson? I know the answer. You know the answer. The Green Bay Packers are in the same boat. You take Aaron Rodgers off their roster, they stink. It's the same type of premise as LeBron James with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers, without LeBron James, they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. Even with Kyrie Irving on the roster, they were still one of the worst teams in the NBA. With LeBron James, they're going to the NBA Finals every single year. Without Aaron Rodgers in 2013, the Packers went 8-7-1. When Rodgers got injured, the Packers were 7. I think the Packers were 5-0-1, I believe. He gets hurt. They lose 5 straight games in 2013. He got injured. They lost him to a broken clavicle. He comes back late in that season. Remember, Matt Flynn saves the day. They re-sign Matt Flynn. He comes in, wins a couple of games late in the season. They end up getting 8-7-1, make it to the postseason in 2013. Rodgers comes back late in that season. 8-7-1. In 2017, you remember against the Minnesota Vikings, Anthony Barr falls on him and he fractures his collarbone. Packers go 7-9 in 2017. Missed the postseason. The next year, 2018, first game of the season against the Bears on a Monday night to kick off the season. He has a knee injury that he sustains. He's never right that entire year. They go 6-9-1 in 2018. I think he might have had a concussion in there too as well. I said all of that to say this. Without Rodgers being healthy, they suck. If Rodgers is gone, whether it's this year or next year, and Davante Adams then follows suit, they got nothing in Green Bay without those two. They're not even the same offense with Rodgers without Davante Adams. You take those two guys out of Green Bay and they stink. They stink. And we don't know what Jordan Love is. He could be the next coming of Aaron Rodgers. He could be a Patrick Mahomes type. And that would definitely keep them afloat. But if he's just average, let's say that he doesn't stink. Let's just say he's a Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of guy. Boom or bust. When he's good, he's really good. When he's bad, he's really bad. Which we've seen that from him at Utah State. When Jordan Love's good, he's really good. When he's bad, he's really bad. Even if he's just middle of the road, they stink. They're a 6-7 win team, 8 at best. Even with some of the other pieces on that roster, especially if you take Davante Adams out of the mix. And this is when you get hurt by not drafting. And I think they're going to have to do it next year, especially if Adams decides, I'm out of here. And he goes and signs with Vegas or some other team. I think the only team he'd leave the Packers for truly is Vegas to go play with Derek Carr. Other than that, I think he's back in Green Bay. But let's say he leaves to go and play with Vegas. Go join up with his buddy Derek Carr. they don't have a choice but to spend a first-round draft pick. They haven't spent a first-round draft pick on a receiver in ages. Can't tell you the last time they've done it. Is it Javon Walker? Early 2000s? I don't know. Stop asking. I just know this. If Davante Adams decides, I want to go play with my buddy in Vegas, and the Packers have some say-so in this. Obviously, they could franchise tag him. Nobody wants to franchise tag a receiver if you don't have to. It's too much money. But you do what you got to do, especially if there's no Aaron Rodgers next year. You want the first year of Jordan Love to go as good as possible, to be as smooth a transition as possible. So you want Davante Adams there. They hold all the cards by saying, hey, you're not leaving. We're going to franchise tag you. They can do that, just like the Bears have essentially held Allen Robinson hostage. Like, hey, we might have a young quarterback here. We probably are going to need you. Sorry, can't let you go. But that's really interesting, man. Even if they do retain the services of Davante Adams, whether it be a long-term deal or just a franchise tag, no Aaron Rodgers. Do you know what that would do to the Packers' Super Bowl odds? Right now, they're probably the second team in the NFC behind Tampa Bay right now, Super Bowl odds-wise. I don't know. I haven't looked. They're right up there. It should be in no particular order, though. Tampa Bay's 1. Rams, Packers, 2-3. You pick. Throw the 49ers in there if you think they're going to rebound with all the guys coming back from injury, but that's essentially what it looks like. Packers are probably 2 right behind Tampa Bay. With Aaron Rodgers no longer in the fold, they go all the way to the back of the line to the Green Bay Packers. All the way to the back. They go from the second best odds to not even on the board. The Packers could suck. And it could be happening right before our very eyes. It could happen this year. They could go from, what were they last year? 13-3, 14-2, whatever they were. It could go from that to 6-11 if there's no Rodgers this year. It could get ugly. It could get ugly. In here. Oh, in here. Oh, in here. Oh. It could get ugly real fast. Real fast. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. I got a super chat here. I actually got a couple of super chats. Let me get to these real quick before we get out of here. My guy Abner Duran, double up, thank you for doubling up, Abner. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Abner Duran writes, "You're right saying the time for the Washington football team for reaching a Super Bowl is now. If we had a quarterback, what would your strategy be for getting one next free agency or draft?" I mean, you don't know. It's hard to say right now because, again, I said this earlier in the offseason. Who could have predicted that Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, and Matthew Stafford all would potentially be available this past offseason that just came up? Who thought that going into the offseason? Who thought that last year this time? That the next offseason, Rodgers, Watson, and Stafford, 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, would all be available. Nobody thought that. Nobody knew that. And throw in Carson Wentz, even though I don't consider him obviously top 10, but he has a chance to get into that discussion because he's going back to the guy that made him good in Philadelphia, in Frank Reich. So we don't know what's going to be available for Washington next offseason in terms of free agency. We don't even know the quarterbacks in the draft right now. Again, Joe Burrow wasn't on the radar 2 years ago. He was a 3rd round guy going into the college football season, and then he erupted and became the number 1 pick in the draft. Zach Wilson wasn't on the radar as a potential 1st round pick going into the college football season last year. He ends up being the number 2 pick in the draft. We don't know who's going to come out of nowhere. So it's hard to say what route you take. But honestly, the veteran route is the best way to go if you want to maximize what you have right now. You know, if you're looking long term, then you want to do it via the draft with a guy that can play for 10 to 15 years and give you a shot. But it's hard to find that guy. You know, it's easier said than done. You know, if you want to maximize the roster as it's constructed now with guys still on rookie contracts, you want an Aaron Rodgers, you want a Matthew Stafford, somebody that is going to come in and right now, right away, give you instant results. You can't be assured of that with a rookie quarterback or a young guy. So the free agency route would be the best route to take, but you got to see who's available and you got to be able to pull off the deal. So we'll see what happens, but thank you for that super chat, Abner Duran. My guy Abner also says, thank you for tripling up first and foremost. Greatly appreciate you, Abner Duran, who writes, he says, you're right. It's been some weeks. That's because my job schedule at Aviation, but I'm sure to like every video, even though I can't catch them live. I'm also already subbed to your CCS channel. Thank you so much, Abner. Greatly appreciate you. I knew it felt like it had been a while, but yeah, you know, again, I always tell people this, that choose work over the stream every single time. All right, every single time. Get your bread while it's there to be got. If it's hot and it's ready, go get it. Okay. If they're offering up bread, get as much of it as you can, and then, you know, we can talk later. And I always say the playback is available too. Okay, you can always watch this thing after it's all said and done. Okay, so it's just good to hear from you, Abner. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. So with that said, and Rodgers is 1-4. My guy Reese says Rodgers is 1-4 in NFC title games. Rich says Rodgers has been to 5. Thank you guys. I figured that. And that's what I said. I think he's been to 5. He only won 1, the first one he went to, and he's lost 4 straight. So, and you know, you could blame him. You could blame, you know, the teammates around him. It's a collective failure. But the only reason they were even in those games is Aaron Rodgers. You know, so it's the same thing that lately we've been saying about Paul George in the playoffs. Everybody wants to blame Paul George. Yep, missed 2 free throws at the end of the game. They end up losing by 1 on a inbounds play. You know, this, that, and the third. But if it's not for Paul George with Kawhi Leonard being out, they're not even in these games. This series is over a long time ago. So I owe Paul George a double O. He'll get it eventually from me. But I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, on the 176th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I can't thank you guys enough for joining me. If you haven't already done so, please do me a huge solid and subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button. Over 80 of you out there, only 49 likes. What are we doing, people? Like buttons, guys and gals. Like button. Hit it. There should be no less than 60 likes with 80 plus of you out there. Hit the like button. Anyway, I digress. I thank you guys for joining me once again. Get off the bench and get in the game and kick it with me, your man Louie T. Remember, no podcast on Friday. All right? No podcast on Friday, but I am live tonight for the CCS, okay? Card Collector Series, NBA Mix and Rip tonight. I'm also live tomorrow night for the Washington Football Report live, and there'll be some uploads in between there and some uploads over the weekend to give you some content to chew on as you're enjoying your 4th of July festivities. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, on the Louie T Network podcast for the week. I will see you guys on Monday for episode 177. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Enjoy the weekend, stay safe, and we'll reconvene on Monday. Hope you have a wonderful and festive 4th of July weekend. You guys, take care.
Louie T Network.